The Monster Maker by Ray Bradbury. Suddenly, it was there. There wasn't time to blink or speak or get scared. Click Hathaway's camera was loaded, and he stood there listening to it. Rack spin film between his fingers. And he knew he was getting a damn sweet picture of everything that was happening. The picture of Monaghan, hunched huge over the control console, wrenching levers, jamming studs with freckled fists, and out in the dark of the forepart, there was space and the stars sprinkling and this meteor coming like blazing fury. Click Hathaway felt the ship move under him like a sensitive animal's skin, and then the meteor hit. It made a spiked fist and knocked the rear jets flat, and the ship spun like a cosmic merry-go-round. There was plenty of noise, too damned much. Hathaway only knew he was picked up and hurled against a lever bank, and that Monaghan wasn't long in following, swearing loud words. Click remembered hanging onto his camera and gritting to keep holding it. What a sweet shot that had been of the meteor. A sweeter one still of Monaghan beating hell out of the controls and keeping its words to himself until just now. It got quiet. It got so quiet, you could almost hear the asteroids rushing up, cold, blue and hard. You could hear your heart kicking a tom-tom between your sick stomach and your empty lungs. Stars, asteroids revolved. Click grabbed Monaghan because he was the nearest thing and held on. You came hunting for a space freighter and you ended up cradled in a slab-sized Irishman's arms, diving at a hunk of metal death. What a fade-out!
Irish,
He heard himself say.
is this it? Is this what?
Yelled Monaghan inside his helmet.
Is this where the big producer yells cut?
Monaghan fumed.
I'll die when I'm damned good and ready. And when I'm ready, I'll inform you and you can picture me profile for cosmic films.
They both waited, thrust against the ship's side and held by a hand of gravity, listening to each other's breathing hard in the earphones. The ship struck once. Bouncing, it struck again. It turned end over and stopped. Hathaway felt himself grabbed. He and Monaghan rattled around. Human dice in a croupier's cup. The shell of the ship burst, air and energy flung out. Hathaway screamed the air out of his lungs, but his brain was thinking quick, crazy, unimportant things. The best scenes in life never reach film or an audience. Like this one, damn it. Like this one. His brain spun, racketing like the instantaneous, flicking motions of his camera. Silence came and engulfed all the noise, ate it up and swallowed it. Hathaway shook his head, instinctively grabbed at the camera locked to his mid-belt. There was nothing but stars, twisted wreckage, cold that pierced through his vac suit, and silence. He wriggled out of the wreckage into that silence. He didn't know what he was doing until he found the camera in his fingers, as if it had grown there when he was born. He stood there, thinking, well, I'll at least have a few good scenes on film. A hunk of metal teetered, fell with a crash. Monaghan elevated 7 feet of billowing manhood from the wreck.
Hold it!
Cracked Hathaway's high voice. Monaghan froze. The camera whirred. Low-angle shot. Interplanetary patrolman emerges unscathed from asteroid crack-up. Swell stuff. I'll get a raise for this.
From the toe of my boot!
Snarled Monaghan briskly. Oxen's shoulders flexed inside his vac suit.
I might have died in there and you're nursing that film contraption.
Hathaway felt funny inside suddenly.
I never thought of that. Monaghan, die? I just took it for granted you'd come through. You always have. Funny, but you don't think about dying. You try not to.
Hathaway stared at his gloved hand, but the gloving was so thick and heavy he couldn't tell if it was shaking. Muscles in his bony face went down, pale.
Where are we? 1,000,000 miles from nobody.
They stood in the middle of a pocked, time-eroded meteor plane that stretched off, dipping down into silent indigo and a rash of stars. Overhead the sun poised, black and stars all around it, making it look sick.
If we walk in opposite directions, Click Hathaway, we'd be shaking hands the other side of this rock in 2 hours.
Monaghan shook his mop of dusty red hair.
And I promised the boys at Lunar Base this time I'd capture that Gunther lad.
His voice stopped, and the silence spoke. Hathaway felt his heart pumping slow, hot pumps of blood.
I checked my oxygen, Irish. 60 minutes of breathing left.
The silence punctuated that sentence too. Upon the sharp meteoric rocks, Hathaway saw the tangled inside of the radio. The food supply mashed and scattered. They were lucky to have escaped. Or was suffocation a better death? 60 minutes. They stood and looked at one another.
Damn that meteor,
said Manigan hotly. Hathaway got hold of an idea. Remembering something, he said it out.
Somebody tossed that meteor, Irish. I took a picture of it. Looked it right in the eye when it rolled at us. And it was poker hot. Space meteors are never hot and glowing. If it's proof you want, I've got it here, on film.
Monaghan winced his freckled square of face.
It's not proof we need now, click. Oxygen, and then food, and then some way back to Earth.
Hathaway went on saying his thoughts.
This is Gunther's work. He's here somewhere, probably laughing his guts out at the job he did us. Oh God, this would make great news release stuff if we were back to Earth. IP's Irish Manigan, temporarily indisposed by a pirate whose dirty face has never been seen. Gunther by name, finally wins through a triumphant finish. Photographed on the spot in colour by yours truly, Click Hathaway. Cosmic Films, please notice.
They started walking, fast, over the pocked, rubbled plain towards a bony ridge of metal. They kept their eyes wide and awake. There wasn't much to see, but it was better than standing still, waiting. Manigan said,
We're working on margin, and we got nothing to sweat with except your suspicions about this not being an accident. We got 50 minutes to prove you're right. After that, right or wrong, you'll be Cosmic Film's prettiest, unmoving, unbreathing genius. Talk all you like, Click. It's times like this when we all need words. Any words on our tongues. You got your camera and your scoop. Talk about it. As for me, he twisted his glossy red face. Keeping alive is my hobby, and this sort of two-bit death I did not order.
Click nodded.
Gunther knows how you'd hate dying this way, Irish. It's irony clean through. That's probably why he planned the meteor and the crash this way.
Manigan said nothing, but his thick lips went down at the corners, far down, and the green eyes blazed. They stopped, together.
Oops,
Click said.
Hey,
Manigan blinked.
Did you feel that?
Hathaway's body felt feathery, light as a whisper, boneless and limbless. Suddenly,
Irish, we lost weight, coming over that ridge.
They ran back.
Let's try it again.
They tried it. They scowled at each other. The same thing happened.
Gravity shouldn't act this way, Click. Are you telling me it's man-made? Better than that, it's Gunther. No wonder we felt so fast. We were dragged down by a supergravity setup. Gunther to do anything to... Did I say anything?
Hathaway leaped backward in reaction. His eyes widened and his hand came up, jabbing. Over a hill ridge swarmed a brew of unbelievable horrors. Progeny from Frankenstein Dark. Immense crimson beasts with numerous legs and gnashing mandibles. Brown, black creatures, some tubular and fat, others like thin, white, poisonous whips slashing along in the air. Fangs caught starlight white on them. Hathaway yelled and ran, Monaghan at his heels lumbering. Sweat broke cold on his body. The immense things rolled, slithered, and squirmed after him. A blast of light. Monaghan firing his proton gun. Then, in Click's ears, the Irishman's incredulous bellow. The gun didn't hurt the creatures at all.
Irish!
Hathaway flung himself over the ridge, slid down an incline towards the mouth of a small cave.
This way, fella!
Hathaway made it first, Monaghan bellowing just behind him.
They're too big. They can't get us in here.
Click's voice gasped it out as Monaghan squeezed his 250 pounds beside him. Instinctively, Hathaway added,
Asteroid monsters. My camera. What a scene. Damn your damn camera,
yelled Monaghan.
They might come in. Use your gun. They got impervious hides. No use. And that was a pretty chase, huh? Click.
Yeah, sure. You enjoyed it. Every moment of it.
I did that.
Irish grinned, showing white, uneven teeth.
Now, what will we be doing with these uninvited guests on our door?
Let me think.
Lots of time, little man. 40 more minutes of air to be exact.
They sat, staring at the monsters for about a minute. Hathaway felt funny about something, didn't know what. Something about these monsters and Gunther and...
Which one will you be having?
Asked Irish casually.
A red one or a blue one?
Hathaway laughed nervously.
A pink one with yellow ruffles. Good God. Now you've got me doing it, joking in the face of death. My father told me, keep laughing and you'll have Irish luck.
That didn't please the photographer.
I'm an Anglo-Swede,
he pointed out. Munnigan shifted uneasily.
Here now. You're doing nothing but sitting, looking like a little boy locked in a bedroom closet. So take me a profile shot of the beasties and myself.
Hathaway petted his camera reluctantly.
What the hell's the use? All this swell film shot? Nobody will ever see it. Then, we'll develop it in our own benefit, while waiting for the US cavalry to come riding over the hill to our rescue.
Retorted Munnigan. Hathaway snorted.
US cavalry.
Munnigan raised his proton gun dramatically.
Snap me this pose,
he said.
I paid your salary to trot along, photographing. We hoped my capture of Gunther. Now the least you can do is record peace negotiations betwixt me and these pixies.
Munnigan wasn't fooling anybody. Hathaway knew the superficial palaver for nothing but a covering over the fast, furious thinking running around in that red-cropped skull. Hathaway played the palaver too, but his mind was whirring faster than his camera as he spun a picture of Munnigan standing there with a useless gun pointed at the animals. Time for a montage. Munnigan sitting, chatting at the monsters. Munnigan smiling for the camera. Munnigan in profile. Munnigan looking grim without much effort for the camera. And then a close-up of the thrashing death wall that holed them in. Click took them all, those shots, not saying anything. Nobody fooled nobody with this act. Death was near, and they had sweaty faces, dry mouths, and frozen guts. When Click finished filming, Irish sat down to save oxygen and used it up arguing about Gunther. Click came back at him.
Gunther drew us down here, sure as Ceres. That gravity change we felt back on that ridge, Irish, that proves it. Gunther's short on men. So, what's he do? He builds an asteroid base and drags ships down. Space war isn't perfect yet, guns don't prime true in space, trajectory is lousy over long distances. So what's the best weapon? Which dispenses with losing valuable, rare ships and a small bunch of men? Supergravity and a couple of well-tossed meteors. Saves all around. It's a good front, this damned iron pebble. From it, Gunther strikes unseen. Ships simply crash, that's all. A subtle hand with all aces.
Munnigan rumbled.
Where is this dirty son, then?
He didn't have to appear Irish. He sent them. Hathaway nodded at the beasts.
People crashing here die from air lack, no food, or from wounds caused at the crack-up. If they survive all that, the animals tend to them. It all looks like nature was responsible. Now, do you see how subtle his attack is? Looks like accidental death instead of murder. If the patrol happens to land and find us, no reason for undue investigations then. I don't see no base around us.
Click shrugged.
Still doubt it? Okay, look.
He tapped his camera and a spool popped out onto his gloved palm. Holding it up, he stripped it out to its full 20-inch length, held it to the light while it developed, smiling. It was one of his best inventions, self-developing film. The first light struck film's surface, destroyed one chemical, leaving imprints. The second exposure simply hardened, secured the impressions. Quick stuff. Inserting the film tongue into a microviewer in the camera's base, Click handed the whole thing over.
Look.
Munnigan put the viewer up against the helmet glass, squinted.
Now this is one lousy film you invented. Huh? The strange process ignored the strange beastlies completely. What?
Hathaway grabbed the camera, gasped, squinted, and gasped again. Pictures in montage. Mannigan sitting down. Chatting conversationally with nothing. Mannigan shooting his gun at nothing. Mannigan pretending to be happy in front of nothing. Then close up of nothing. The monsters had failed to image the film. Mannigan was there, his hair like a red banner, his freckled face with the blue eyes bright in it. Maybe. Hathaway said it loud.
Irish. I think I see a way out of this mess. Here.
He elucidated it over and over again to the patrolman. About the film, the beasts, and how the film couldn't be wrong. If the film said the monsters weren't there, they weren't there.
Yeah,
said Mannigan.
But step outside this cave. If my theory is correct, I'll do it. Unafraid,
said Click. Mannigan scowled.
You sure them beasts don't radiate ultraviolet or infrared or something that won't come out on film? Nuts! Any color we see, the camera sees. We've been fooled. Hey, where you going?
Mannigan blocked Hathaway as the smaller man tried pushing past him.
Get out of the way,
said Hathaway. Mannigan put his big fists on his hips.
If anyone is going out there, it'll be me does the going. I can't let you do that, Irish. Why not? You'd be going on my say-so. Ain't your say-so good enough for me? Yeah, sure, of course, I guess. If you say them animals ain't there, that's all I need. Now stand aside, you film-developing flea, and let an Irishman settle their bones.
He took an unnecessary hitch in trousers that didn't exist except under an inch of porous metal plate.
Your express purpose on this voyage, Hathaway, is taking films to be used by the patrol later for teaching junior patrolmen how to act in tough spots. First-hand education. Poke another spool of film in that contraption and give my profile a scan. This is lesson number 7. Daniel walks into the lion's den. Irish, shut up and load up.
Hathaway nervously loaded the film slot, raised it.
Ready? Click. I guess so,
said Hathaway.
And remember, think it hard, Irish. Think it hard. There aren't any animals. Keep me in focus, lad. All the way, Irish. What do they say? Oh yeah, actions, lights, camera.
Mannigan held his gun out in front of him and still smiling took 1, 2, 3, 4 steps out into the outside world. The monsters were waiting for him at the 5th step. Mannigan kept walking, right out into the middle of them. That was the sweetest shot Hathaway ever took. Mannigan and the monsters. Only now, it was only Mannigan. No more monsters. Mannigan smiled, a smile broader than his shoulders.
Hey, Click! Look at me! I'm in one piece. Why, hell, the damn things turned tail and ran away. Ran? Hell!
Cried Hathaway, rushing out, his face flushed and animated.
They just plain vanished. They were only imaginative figments. And to think we let them haul us in here that way. Click Hathaway, you coward! Smile when you say that, Irish. Sure, and ain't I always smiling? Ah, Click boy, are them tears in your sweet grey eyes? Damn.
Swore the photographer embarrassedly.
Why don't they put window wipers in these helmets? I'll take it up with the board, lad. Forget it. I was so blamed glad to see your homely carcass in one hunk, I couldn't help. Look, now, about Gunther. Those animals are part of his setup. Explorers who land here inadvertently are chased back into their ships, forced to take off. Tourists and the like. Nothing suspicious about animals. And if the tourists don't leave, the animals kill them. Sure now. Those animals can't kill. Think not, Mr. Mannigan? As long as we believed in them, they could have frightened us to death. Forced us, maybe, to commit suicide. If that isn't being dangerous.
The Irishman whistled.
But we've got to move, Irish. We've got 20 minutes of oxygen. In that time, we've got to trace those monsters to their source, Gunther's base, fight our way in, and get fresh oxy canisters.
Click attached his camera to his mid-belt.
Gunther probably thinks we're dead by now. Everyone else has been fooled by his playmates. They never had a chance to disbelieve them. If it hadn't been for you taking them pictures, Click, coupled with your damn stubborn attitude about the accident.
Click stopped and felt his insides turn to water. He shook his head and felt a film slip down over his eyes. He spread his legs out to steady himself and swayed.
I don't think my oxygen is as full as yours. This excitement had me double breathing and I feel sick.
Manigan's homely face grimaced in sympathy.
Hold tight, Click. The guy that invented these fish bowls didn't provide for a sick stomach. Hold tight, hell, let's move. We've got to find where those animals came from. And the only way to do that is to get the animals to come back. Come back? How? They're waiting just outside the aura of our thoughts, and if we believe in them again, they'll return.
Oh, Manigan didn't like it.
Won't they kill us if they come? If we believe in them?
Hathaway shook a head that was tons heavy and weary.
Not if we believe in them to a certain point. Psychologically, they can both be seen and felt. We only want to see them coming at us again. Do we, now? With 20 minutes left, maybe less. All right, Click, let's bring them back. How do we do it?
Hathaway fought against the mists in his eyes.
Just think, I will see the monsters again. I will see them again and I will not feel them. Think it over and over.
Manigan's bulk stirred uneasily.
And what if I forget to remember all that? What if I get excited?
Hathaway didn't answer, but his eyes told the story by just looking at Irish. Manigan cursed.
All right, lad. Let's have at it.
The monsters returned. A soundless deluge of them pouring over the rubbled horizon, swarming in malevolent anticipation about the two men. This way, Irish. They come from this way. There's a focal point, a sending station for these telepathic brutes. Come on. Hathaway sludged into the pressing tide of color, mouths, contorted faces, silvery fat bodies misting as he plowed through them. Manigan was making good progress ahead of Hathaway, but he stopped and raised his gun and made quick moves with it.
Click, this one here. It's real.
He fell back and something struck him down. His immense frame slammed against rock, noiselessly. Hathaway darted forward, flung his body over Manigan's, covered the helmet glass with his hands, shouting,
Manigan, get a grip, damn it! It's not real! Don't let it force itself into your mind. It's not real, I tell you. Click.
Manigan's face was a bitter, tortured movement behind glass.
Click.
He was fighting hard.
I sure now. Sure.
He smiled.
It's only a shanty fake. Keep saying it, Irish. Keep it up.
Manigan's thick lips opened.
It's only a fake,
he said, and then, irritated,
Get the hell off me, Hathaway. Let me up to my feet.
Hathaway got up, shakily. The air in his helmet smelled stale, and little bubbles danced in his eyes.
Irish, you forget the monsters. Let me handle them. I know how. They might fool you again. You might forget.
Manigan showed his teeth.
Gah. Let a flea have all the fun. And besides, Click, I like to look at them. They're pretty.
The outpour of animals came from a low-lying mound a mile farther on. Evidently, the telepathic source lay there. They approached it warily.
We'll be taking our chances on guard,
hissed Irish.
I'll go ahead, draw their attention, maybe get captured. Then you show up with your gun. I haven't got one. We'll chance it then. You stick here until I see what's ahead. They probably got scanners out. Let them see me.
And before Hathaway could object, Manigan walked on. He walked about 500 yards, bent down, applied his fingers to something, heaved up, and there was a door opening in the rock. His voice came back across the distance into Click's earphones.
A door, an airlock, Click, a tunnel leading down inside.
Then Manigan dropped into the tunnel, disappearing. Click heard the thud of his feet hitting the metal flooring. Click sucked in his breath, hard and fast.
All right, put him up.
A new harsh voice cried over a different radio, one of Gunther's guards. 3 shots sizzled out, and Manigan bellowed. The strange, harsh voice said,
That's better. Don't try and pick that gun up now. Oh, so it's you. I thought Gunther had finished you off. How'd you get past the animals?
Click started running. He switched off his sending audio, kept his receiving on. Manigan, weaponless. One guard. Click gasped. Things were getting dark. Had to have air. Air. He ran and kept running and listening to Manigan's lying voice.
I tried them pink elephants of Gunther's in neat alphabetical bundles and stacked them up to dry, you louse.
Mannigan said.
But damn you, they killed my partner before he had a chance.
The guard laughed. The airlock door was still wide open when Click reached it, his head swimming darkly, his lungs crammed with pain, fire, and hell rockets. He let himself down quiet and softly. He didn't have a weapon. Oh yeah, that's right. He didn't have a weapon. Oh, damn! A tunnel curved, ending in light, and two men silhouetted in that yellow glare. Mannigan backed against the wall, his helmet cracked, air hissing slowly out of it, his face turning blue. And the guard? A proton gun extended stiffly before him, also in a vac suit. The guard had his profile towards Hathaway, his lips twisting. I think I'll let you stand right there and die, he said quietly. That's what Gunther wanted anyway. A nice, sordid death. Hathaway took 3 strides, his hands out in front of him. Don't move, he snapped. I've got a weapon stronger than yours. One twitch and I'll blast you, and the whole damned wall out from behind you. Freeze! The guard whirled. He widened his sharp eyes, and reluctantly, dropped his gun to the floor. Get his gun, Irish. Mannigan made it as if to move, crumpled clumsily forward. Hathaway ran in, snatched up the gun, smirked at the guard. Thanks for posing, he said. That shot will go down in film history for candid acting. What? Keep your place. I've got a real gun now. Where's the door leading into the base? The guard moved his head sullenly over his left shoulder. Click was afraid he would show his weak dizziness. He needed air. Okay, drag Mannigan with you. Open the door and we'll have air. Double time, double. 10 minutes later, Mannigan and Hathaway, fresh tanks of oxygen on their backs, Mannigan in a fresh bulger and helmet, trussed the guard, hid him in a huge trash receptacle. Where he belongs, observed Irish tersely. They found themselves in a complete inner world, an asteroid nothing more than a honeycomb fortress sliding through the void unchallenged. Perfect front for a raider who had little equipment and was short-handed of men. Gunther simply waited for a specific cargo ship to rocket by, pulled them or knocked them down and swarmed over them for cargo. The animals served simply to ensure against suspicion and the swarms of tourists that filled the void these days. Small fry weren't wanted. They were scared off. The telepathic sending station for the animals was a great bank of intricate, glittering machine through which strips of colored film with images slid into slots and machine mouths that translated them into thought emanations. A damned neat piece of genius.
So here we are. Still not much better off than we were,
growled Irish.
We still haven't a ship or a space radio, and more guards will turn up any moment. You think we could refocus this doohickey? Project the monsters inside the asteroid to fool the pirates themselves? What good would that do?
Hathaway gnawed his lip.
They wouldn't fool the engineers that created them, you nut.
Mannigan exhaled disgustingly.
Ugh. If only the US cavalry would come riding over the hill. Irish!
Hathaway snapped, his face lighting up.
Irish, the US cavalry it is!
His eyes darted over the machines.
Here, help me. We'll stage everything on the most colossal raid of the century.
Mannigan winced.
You're breathing oxygen or whiskey? There's only one stipulation I make, Irish. I want a complete picture of Mannigan capturing Raider's base. I want a picture of Gunther's face when you do it. Snap it, now. We've got rush work to do. How good an actor are you? That's a silly question. You only have to do 3 things. Walk with your gun out in front of you, firing. That's number 1. Number 2 is to clutch at your heart and fall down dead. Number 3 is to clutch at your side, fall down and twitch on the ground. Is that clear? Clear as the Coal Sack Nebula.
An hour later, Hathaway trudged down a passageway that led out into a sort of city street inside the asteroid. There were about 6 streets, lined with cube houses in yellow metal, ending near Hathaway in a wide green-lawned plaza. Hathaway, weaponless, idly carrying his camera in one hand, walked across the plaza as if he owned it. He was heading for a building that was pretentious enough to be Gunther's quarters. He got halfway there when he felt a gun in his back. He didn't resist. They took him straight ahead to his destination and pushed him into a room where Gunther sat. Hathaway looked at him.
So, you're Gunther,
he said calmly. The pirate was incredibly old. His bulging forehead stood out over sunken, questioningly dark eyes, and his scrawny body was lost in folds of metal link cloth. He glanced up from a paper file, surprised. Before he could speak, Hathaway said,
Everything's over with, Mr. Gunther. The patrol is in the city now, and we're capturing your base. Don't try to fight. We've 1,000 men against your 85.
Gunther sat there, blinking at Hathaway, not moving. His thin hands twitched in his lap.
You are bluffing,
he said finally with a firm directness.
A ship hasn't landed here for an hour. Your ship was the last. 2 people were on it. The last I saw of them, they were being pursued to the death by the beasts. One of you escaped, it seemed.
Both. The other guy went after the patrol.
Impossible!
I can't respect your opinion, Mr. Gunther. A shouting rose from the plaza. About 50 of Gunther's men, lounging on carved benches during their time off, stirred to their feet and started yelling. Gunther turned slowly to the huge window on one side of his office. He stared hard. The patrol was coming. Across the plaza, marching quietly and decisively, came the patrol, 500 patrolmen in one long, incredible line, carrying paralysis guns with them in their tight hands. Gunther babbled like a child, his voice a shrill dagger in the air.
Get out there, you men! Throw them back! We're outnumbered!
Guns flared, but the patrol came on. Gunther's men didn't run. Hathaway had to credit them on that. They took it, standing. Hathaway chuckled inside, deep inside. What a sweet, sweet shot this is. His camera whirred, clicked, and whirred again. Nobody stopped him from filming it. Everything was too wild, hot, and angry. Gunther was throwing a fit, still seated at his desk, unable to move because of his fragile, bony legs and their atrophied state. Some of the patrol were killed. Hathaway chuckled again as he saw 3 of the patrolmen clutch at their heart, crumple, lie on the ground, and twitch. God, what photography! Gunther raged and swept a small pistol from his linked corselet. He fired wildly until Hathaway hit him over the head with a paperweight. Then Hathaway took a picture of Gunther slumped at his desk, the chaos taking place immediately outside his window. The pirates broke and fled, those that were left, a mere handful. And out of the chaos came Monigan's voice.
Here!
One of the patrolmen stopped firing and ran toward Click and the building. He got inside.
Did you see them run, Click boy? What an idea! How did we do?
Fine, Irish, fine.
So here's Gunther, the spalpeen.
Gunther, the little dried-up pirate, eh? Monigan whacked Hathaway on the back.
I'll have to hand it to you. This is the best plan of battle ever laid out. And proud to fight with such splendid men as these.
He gestured towards the plaza. Click laughed with him.
You should be proud. 500 patrolmen with hair like red banners flying, with thick Irish brogues and broad shoulders and freckles and blue eyes and a body as tall as your stories. I always said, if ever there could be an army of Monigans, we could lick the whole damn universe. Did you photograph it, Click?
I did. Hathaway tapped his camera happily.
And then, won't that be a scoop for you, boy? Money from the patrol so they can use the film as instruction in classes, and money from Cosmic Films for the newsreel headlines. And what a scene, and what acting. 500 duplicates of Steve Monaghan broadcast telepathically into the minds of the pirates, walking across the plaza, capturing the whole shebang. How did you like my death scenes?
You're a ham. And anyway, 500 duplicates? More like nothing, said Click. He ripped the film spool from the camera, spread it into the air to develop, inserted it into the microviewer. Have a look. Monigan looked.
Oh, now.
He said over and over,
There's the plaza, and there's Gunther's men fighting, and then there's turning and running, and... What are they running from? One man? Me? Irish Mannigan? Walking all by myself across the lawn, paralyzing them. 1 against 100, and the cowards running from me. Sure, Click, this is better than I thought. I forgot that film wouldn't register telepathic emanations. Them other mannequins. It makes me look like I'm a mighty brave man, does it not? Ah, it does. Ah, look at me, Hathaway. I'm enjoying every minute of it. I am.
Hathaway swatted him on his backside. Look here, you egocentric son of Erin. There's more work to be done, more pirates to be captured. The patrol is still marching around, and someone might be suspicious if they look too close and saw all that red hair.
All right, Click. We'll clean up the rest of them now. We're a combination, we two, we are. I take it all back about your pictures, Click. If you hadn't thought of taking pictures of me and inserting it into those telepath machines, we'd be dead ducks now. Well, here I go.
Hathaway stopped him.
Hold it until I load my camera again.
Irish grinned.
Hurry it up, here come 3 guards. They're unarmed. I think I'll handle them with me fists for a change. The gentle art of uppercuts. Are you ready, Hathaway?
Ready. Mannigan lifted his big ham fists. The camera whirred. Hathaway chuckled to himself. What a sweet fade-out this was.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that brilliant detective, Sherlock Holmes. And say, while you lend an ear to the good doctor, you'll pull out a pleasure out of a glass of rich, ruby-red Petri California port. Just sit back and sip that Petri port leisurely. There's a wine that's just perfect after dinner. A wine that really goes with storytelling and conversation. Petri port is as rich in flavor as it is in color. And what a flavor. Full, hearty, and delicious. Well, I can't think of a better way to express your hospitality than to offer your friends a glass of good Petri port. Serve that Petri port alone, or serve it with fruit or nuts, or with cake or sandwiches. No matter how you serve it, you can serve that Petri port proudly. Because the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wine. Well, here we are once again, keeping our weekly date with Dr. Watson. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. Come in and join me. As you see, the puppies have been keeping your chair warm for you. Here, shove them off.
No, Doctor, I don't want to disturb them. They look much too comfortable. I'll sit over here, thanks.
There's tobacco in the jar beside you, cigarettes in the box, and some excellent port on the sideboard, so make yourself at home.
Thanks, Doctor. Are you all ready with tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Yes, Mr. Bartell, though I'm afraid after all these years, it's going to be a little hard for me to recapture for you the spirit of the story.
Last week you told us that a band of gypsies played a prominent part in the adventure.
Yes, they did indeed. And it was amid that colorful atmosphere that my story begins. It was in the autumn of 1890. My old friend Sherlock Holmes had persuaded me to leave the comforts of my domestic fireside for a few days and to accompany him to the tiny village of Bragston-on-the-Marsh, in the heart of the Norfolk Fen district.
What took Sherlock Holmes up there, Doctor?
I'm afraid that at the time we left London, Mr. Bartell, he concealed his true purpose from me, saying only that he wanted friendly companionship and a strong right arm. Not until later did I learn that he was then on the track of one of the last clues that led to the confining of the Moriarty gang. But to get on with my story. We arrived at Bragston-on-the-Marsh and settled ourselves in the village inn. And after an early dinner, we strolled across the fields to the gypsy fair that was encamped nearby. It was a colourful sight, Mr. Bartell. Naphtha flares lighted a group of tents and caravans dotted round the edge of the marsh. And just gold-earring gypsy girls told fortunes and danced. Swarthy gypsy men played on their violins the haunting melodies of their ancestors. We watched the side shows for a few moments and then strolled towards the centre of the gypsy encampment. It seems only like yesterday, Mr. Bartell, as Holmes turned to me and said,
Far cry from Baker Street, isn't it, Watson?
Yes, indeed. Just the same, Holmes, I'm convinced that you're not here purely for holiday. You're on the trail of some criminal.
No, chap, I'm on the trail of a clue. A clue, if I find it, may lead to the confounding of the Moriarty gang.
Holmes, can't you be a little more explicit? After all, I left my wife and my practice without asking any questions. Surely now we're up here and you can let me know what's afoot.
Very well, old fellow. I'm searching for a young gypsy by the name of Pyramus Hearn. He disappeared recently from London, and it's vital that I find him. I know that he can give me some essential information on our old enemy, Professor Moriarty.
And you're expecting to find the gypsy here?
I hope to get news of him, at least. His father, Jasper Hearn, is head of this particular encampment.
Well, why don't you ask if you can see him?
Just what I'm about to do, my dear fellow.
Well, here comes the gypsy. Now, I'll ask him.
All right. Oh, excuse me.
You speak to me, Gorgio?
Can you tell me where I might find Mr. Jasper Hearn?
What you want with Jasper Hearn?
I have a message for his son, Pyramus.
That is different. Jasper Hearn stands in the booth yonder. He is the Timbalangro.
Timbalangro? Yes, sir.
He's the gentleman engaged in an interesting exhibition of skill involving 3 thimbles and a pea. What our American cousins refer to, I understand, as the old shell game. Let's stroll over there, shall we, old fellow?
If you would wish to talk to Jasper, it would be better to wait until he is finished. A Timbalangro needs all his wits about him.
Now, Joe, look at that stunning girl in the tent over there. Who's she?
Her that is penning the rice tuckering. That is Lydia Pentalangro. Excuse me, I shall tell Jasper to expect you late.
I can't understand a word they say, Holmes. Penning the what?
At last, my dear fellow, you can appreciate how I have felt at times. But at least their words are clear, even if the sense is not, to someone who is unfamiliar with the Romany language.
I don't know why you keep hinting that I'm hard to understand. No one else ever complains of it. In any case, what does penning the thimble mean?
Well, if I remember rightly, penning duckerin is telling fortunes. And from the sound of things, Lydia Pentalangro is not greatly pleased with the diamond she penned.
No more. Lydia can tell no more fortune.
Come on, Watson. Let's see what the trouble is.
What do you mean? You must finish it.
But, Olive, my dear, if the young lady doesn't want to tell my fortune...
Rubbish. You crossed her palm with silver. She's taking money under false pretenses.
Here, I give you your silver back. Lydia has never taken money under false pretenses, nor has she told the future when she does not wish to. Goodbye to you.
The insolence of these gypsies is intolerable. If I had my way, they'd be run out of the county.
Now, my dear, don't get so excited. The poor girl's probably...
Good evening. Major Treadgold, isn't it?
Huh? I don't think I have the pleasure of your... Oh, dear me. It's Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, sir.
Well, bless my soul. Haven't seen you since that last meeting of the Geographical Society. Oh, I'd like you to meet my wife.
How do you do, Mrs. Treadgold?
How do you do?
This is my friend, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
What brings you up to this part of England, Holmes? Are you hot on the trail of some desperate criminal?
Dear me, no. Dr. Watson and I are taking a little holiday, and you and your wife?
We live here in the manor house.
Well, you're very lucky. It's a beautiful part of the country, Mrs. Treadgold.
I hate it. I was born and brought up in London. I'm never really happy outside the city.
Yes, Oliver's not one for the peace of the countryside, I'm afraid. Well, perhaps we'll get back there. It's a little difficult these days, you know. We've got the boy to consider.
Boy? Your son, sir?
My dead brother's son, Doctor.
We have no children.
My little nephew's only 4 years old, you see, and I'm his guardian as well as being executor of his estates up here. So you can understand it would be difficult for us to get back to London.
It's only difficult because you put the child's happiness before mine, Arthur.
Oh, now, Olive, you know I have to watch his interests up here. After all, when he comes of age, he'll be one of the richest young men in Norfolk.
Yes, and with money that should have come to us. In any case, Arthur, if we do have to live up here, I'd find it more tolerable if you'd keep this gypsy scum off the estate.
You seem to have taken a violent dislike to the gypsies, Mrs. Treadgold. May I ask why?
Oh, they persecute us. They steal our sheep, they break our windows, and just the other day they wantonly led our prize pig into the Bragstone quagmire and let the beast perish.
Why should they single you out for persecution like this, do you suppose?
Oh, I can't imagine. I've always tried to be nice to them.
Too nice, Arthur. That's your trouble.
I have a very good reason for humoring them, my dear. You see, Holmes, I've always been afraid they may carry this feud so far that they'll even hurt the baby. Olive, my dear, I wonder if you'd go ahead and wait for me in the carriage. It's getting rather chilly. I'll join you in a moment.
Very well, Arthur, but don't keep me waiting long. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good night, Mr. Treadgold.
Let's stroll away from the camp, shall we? I've got something very important to tell you. Something I didn't like to say in front of Olive. The gypsies have threatened to kidnap our boy.
Great Scott, how shocking.
What form did their threat take, sir?
This letter. I found it pinned on the frame of my dressing room mirror when I went up after dinner tonight.
Let me see it, will you, please?
Well, what does it say, Holmes?
A Romany rye... A Romany rye won't procure insults forever, Major and Mrs. High and Mighty. Watch out for the Treadgold heir. The Bragstone quagmire would make a nice finishing school for him.
Romney Rye? What's that mean?
Well, it's their own term meaning gypsy. Mr. Holmes, what shall I do?
Major Treadgold, I should say...
Great heavens! That shot just missed me.
Where the blazes have come from? I can't see a soul.
Easily have come from behind any one of those caravans ahead of us.
If you wanted direct evidence, gentlemen, this is it. That is the first open attempt on my life. Holmes, what extraordinary luck for me that you're in the neighborhood. I'll pay you any fee you name to handle this business.
It seems to me that this is a job for the police.
I don't want to go to them.
Oh, why not, sir?
Well, I'm afraid that these attacks may stem from some injustice to the gypsies committed by my late brother. If that were so, I wouldn't wish to expose the fact. I want this kept private. What do you say, Mr. Holmes?
Very well, sir. I'll accept the case. It shall be kept private, and I promise to do everything in my power to protect the safety of the Treadgold heir. We are staying at the Rose and Crown in the village. Please get in touch with me if there should be any further developments.
The affair seems to be closed down for the night now, Holmes. They're turning out the naphtha flares.
Yes, let's stroll over to Jasper Hearn's caravan, shall we? He should be free now.
Well, if he's head of this tribe, he ought to be able to tell you something about this Treadgold business.
Yes. Though I shall first ask him about his son, Pyramus, the man I'm looking for. The fact that I know his son will inspire confidence. Here we are. This is the caravan.
That girl, Lydia Petrolenga, sitting outside, the one that was telling fortunes.
Yes. Good evening.
Whom are you? And what do you want?
I wish to speak to Jasper Hearn.
He is not here. He's gone to the marshes.
When will he be back?
I do not know. You bring trouble to Jasper?
No, my dear. This is a personal visit.
We're not after him for being a thimble engro. Or for penning duckerin.
Oh, for a Gorgio, you speak a Romany well, brother. Oh, you are a true Lavengro, master of words. Where did you learn it?
From Jasper's son, Pyramus.
Ah, you know Pyramus then.
A fine boy.
Oh, sit down on the grass, my friend. You may wait here for Jasper. He will be back soon.
Thank you.
Is that your violin lying on the steps, young lady?
No, that is Jasper's Boschum.
Jasper's Boschum, what knows that?
That is the Romany word for violin. You play, sir?
No, but my friend does.
So? Oh, then take it, brother. The stars are bright. The night is warm. Music will be sweet.
For Romany Chai, I'm afraid my violin playing will sound rather poor stuff.
Play on, brother. Stop, brother. You play well, but Sarasate Zigeunerweisen is not the true gypsy music. I've heard it in London and in Budapest. They call it gypsy. But what can a Gorgio know of the true heart of Romany? Wait here. I will get my own violin.
Charming girl, charming. But why do you keep on talking about Gorgios? Is that more of their confounded gibberish?
A Gorgio, old chap, is a term they use for anyone who is not a true gypsy.
Now I will play for you the real gypsy airs.
Thank you. I should appreciate it very much. But before you begin, I wonder if I might ask you a question.
A friend of Pyramus may ask me any question. What is it?
I observed you telling fortunes earlier on tonight. You refused to tell a certain gentleman's hand and gave him money back. Did you know who the gentleman was?
No, brother. Nor the noisy woman with him. I refused to pen the duckerin because I saw blood and violent death in his hand. Violent death it is soon to come.
Violent death? Good Lord.
Watson, fellow, I want you to do me a favor.
Yes, of course I will. What is it?
I must remain here until Jasper Hearn comes back. I should like you to return to the inn. It's more than possible that we may have news from our client before the night is out. I'll be back later.
Oh, well, it's nice of you to give me the best job. Good night, Miss Petrolina.
Good night.
And now, please play for me. True Romany air.
Very well, my friend. Listen. Now you must play, brother. I shall make a true Vaishamangro of you. Come, see if you can follow me.
Lydia, you have taught him well. You have made a true bushmaker of him.
He is an apt pupil, Jasper.
Well, with such a teacher, it's hard to be otherwise, Mr. Hearn. That is, if one has a spark of music in one's soul. Call me Jasper, brother. You have spoken well of my son. You have taught wisely to me of things that I have not understood. Come, we shall drink wine together underneath the stars. I shall get glasses and a flagon.
Jasper has taken a great fancy to brother.
And I to him. He's a fine man.
Sherlock Holmes,
Yes, Lydia?
may I read your hand, brother?
Oh, yes, of course.
A strange hand, and a beautiful one. A long lifeline, and yet I see sudden death and violence surrounding you. Now, at this moment. And in the future, I see a journey for you, across the seas, within a year. Beware of water that runs in the mountains. Near death will befall you there. More travels, more dangers. Oh, you must be careful, brother. Oh,
What is it?
our paths are destined to cross but once. We shall not meet after this night. That makes me sad.
Oh, but we shall meet again. I shall be here for some days yet.
No, it says in your hand that we shall not meet again. And a hand cannot lie. Who is this that comes toward us through the moonlight?
It's my friend, Dr. Watson, I think. Yes. Hello, Watson. What's wrong?
Wrong. Everything's wrong. Mrs. Treadgold's waiting in the carriage. She wants you to come at once.
Indeed, why?
The child has been kidnapped. Major Treadgold has gone for the police, and Mrs. Treadgold is threatening to rouse the local inhabitants and come out here and burn this camp to the ground if you don't find the
You
child.
tell Mrs. Treadgold to return home. She can do no good here.
But Holmes...
Tell her, old chap, that I have the case well in hand.
But how can you have? You've been out here all the time playing your violin.
Have faith in me, please, old fellow, will you? And deliver the message. Then come back here and join me, and I'll explain everything to you.
Very well. I suppose you know what you're up to.
Violence and trouble, brother. It is all there in your hand.
Well, what must be shall be, and I wouldn't have it otherwise. But for the moment, the sky is starlit, the air is still, and the melody you played haunts me. Let's play it together again, shall we?
I should like that. I should like that very much.
Well, Dr. Watson, I must say this is a strange story you're telling us. You mean to say that the heir to the Treadgold estates had been kidnapped, and yet Sherlock Holmes paid no attention?
Yes, that's what it seemed like, Mr. Bartell. I couldn't understand him. I've never known him to be so indifferent to a case. There he sat until the early hours of the morning as he and that girl scraped away at their violins and never said a word about the kidnapped baby. Finally, as we walked home across the field a few hours before dawn, his mind seemed to return to the matter at hand. He spoke quietly, and yet there was a note of suppressed excitement in his voice.
What, my dear fellow? You're angry with me, aren't you?
No, Holmes, I must say, but I'm a little confused. That girl seems to have bewitched him. Have you forgotten that you accepted the job of guarding the Treadgold heir, and that the child was kidnapped tonight?
No, I'm fully aware of the fact.
Holmes, heaven's sake, stop being so infernally matter-of-fact. What's come over with you?
Oh, possibly it's the mood of this mild autumn night. It is indeed a St. Martin's summer. So much so that I've left my coat and deerstalker cap behind me at the encampment. Let's go back, shall we? And incidentally, when we get there, I can set your mind at rest by showing you the kidnapped child.
You mean you know where it is?
Certainly. It's, in the camp.
Then the gypsies did steal it.
No, my dear fellow. I did.
What? This is one of those occasions when you absolutely infuriate me, Holmes. If you must keep me up half the night while you have a fitting concert with a gypsy girl, least of all you can do is tell me what's going on. You stole the child yourself. In heaven's name, why?
Because the threatening note to Major Treadgold was so obviously a fraud.
Oh, why do you say that?
You will remember that the letter began, "A Romany Rye will not take your insults forever." Now, a Romany Rye, despite what Major Treadgold said, does not mean a gypsy, but a man who knows about gypsy law. It is a term no true gypsy would apply to himself. He would use the expression Romany Chal. So it was obvious from the beginning that no gypsy threatened the child. Now, who else had a motive for harming it?
Well, Major Treadgold, because he stood to inherit the estate.
Or his wife? It's quite obvious. She has no liking for our present life, and the child is an obstacle to a new one. With the child kidnapped and later made away with, obviously they both stood to gain a great many of the things they wanted.
Yes, you're right. And whoever the culprit is took the precaution of pinning the blame in advance on the unfortunate gypsies by writing the false kidnapping note. Wait a minute, but how about the shot that was fired at us tonight as we went with Major Treadgold?
Probably fired by an accomplice to the plot, in order to give authenticity to the supposed danger.
And the child is now in the Gypsy encampment.
Yes, I promised that I would protect the Treadgold heir, and so I arranged with Jasper Hearn to have the boy kidnapped for his own safety.
But if anyone should find the child, they'll say the gypsies deliberately stole him.
Oh, I'm quite certain that before that occasion arises, old chap, the criminal will have shown his or her hand. Come on, old fella. Put your best foot forward. It's a long way back to the camp yet, and it's nearly dawn.
You have come back, brother. You wish to spend the remainder of the night in the encampment?
No, thank you, Jasper. I just came back for my cap and coat. It was so warm tonight, and I forgot about them, and I started to walk home without them.
I will find them for you. Oh, we found this message for you soon after you had left. It was pinned to the door of the caravan. I do not know how it got there. I will search for your coat and cap.
Another message? What does it say, Holmes?
Never trust a Romany rye. Uh-huh. The same mistake again, Watson. Your plans have been betrayed. For proof, meet me at the Bragstone quagmire at dawn.
It's a trap, Holmes.
Obviously. We must spring it with caution.
I cannot find your coat or your cap, brother. It has vanished.
Vanished? May I speak to Lydia?
That is a strange thing, too. Lydia has gone also.
She's gone. Tell me, Jasper, did she read this note?
Yes, she did. She could not help reading it.
Then she, too, realized it was a trap. She went out in my coat and deer-stalking hat to keep the appointment for me.
Holmes, we must go after her.
Jasper, call out the Romany Childs. There's a devil waiting to be caught in the Bragstone quagmire.
How much further to the quagmire, Jasper?
200 yards. No more.
There's Lydia. There she is. And she's dressed in my deer-stalking hat and coat, walking into the trap that was set for me. Lydia! Lydia!
They got her. Look. She stumbled. She's fallen.
I'll go to her, Watson. Jasper, get that devil who staged this fiendish plot. I've a score to settle with him.
Do not worry, brother. The score will be settled. Follow me, Doctor.
Right you are. I'm right behind you.
Lydia.
Sherlock Holmes, I was wrong. We do meet again. Your hand lied to me.
Oh, Lydia. You're wounded. What can I do for you?
There is nothing you can do, brother. No one can help me now. There is little time. Please, hold my hand.
There. Tell me, Lydia, did you see who fired the shot?
Yes, it was the man whose fortune I told today. The man with the noisy wife.
Major Treadgold.
Jasper and the men will take care of him. There is one thing I wish to tell you, brother.
Yes?
Our short meeting has brought me happiness. I should like to think I can leave you something so that you will not forget me.
I shall always remember you, Lydia. Always. You gave your life for mine.
There is one thing of mine that I wish you to have. It will remind you of me.
What is it?
My violin. It brought us together. I should you to have it, brother.
Lydia.
Do not be sad. It is good. My life for yours. You will give help to many people. It is in your hand. Goodbye. Oshimangro.
Holmes, it was dreadful. Dreadful. The gypsies surrounded Major Treadgold. They forced him back into the Bragstone quagmire. I tried to pull him out, but I couldn't go single-handed.
I'm not sorry, Watson. Jasper, you know that Lydia is dead?
Yes, I know it. The gypsies knew it, too. It is why you were single-handed, Doctor, in your attempts to save the murderer. No Romany child would raise a finger to help him.
Yes, I can understand that, but great Scott, man, if you'd seen his face as the quaking mud sucked him under.
Lydia's death was less dramatic, but equally moving, I assure you.
Sherlock Holmes, I met you less than 5 hours ago. You have saved my tribe from a devilish plot that would have blackened their names. A plot that would have driven them from the countryside. What can I do, Enrique?
2 things. First, tell me where I may reach your son, Pyramus.
His address is in this sealed envelope, Doctor.
Thank you.
What else may I do for you?
As Lydia died, she willed me one gift for remembrance.
And what was that gift, Barber?
A violin.
Of course. Here it is.
Huh. She told me I might become a true Boshamengro. Let's see if I can recapture the melody once more.
Doctor, that was a very strange story. A very fascinating one. But tell me, do you really believe that gypsies can tell your fortune by reading the palm of your hand?
Well, frankly, I don't know, Mr. Bartell. Perhaps they can. Perhaps it's coincidence. And then again, maybe some gypsy women have a heightened sense of intuition. You know, a woman's intuition can be an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, so my wife keeps telling me. Of course, I have a kind of intuition myself.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Every time I see a bottle of wine with the name Petri on the label, my intuition tells me I'm going to like it. And I always do, too.
Mr. Bartell, if ever I saw a man with a one-track mind, you're that man.
Thank you, Doctor. As long as my one track is Petri, I can't miss. Because nobody can miss with Petri wine. What other wine has such tradition, such a story behind it? Petri wine is made by a family, the Petri family. They've owned and operated their own business ever since its inception, back in the 1800s. The Petri family has been making good wine for generations, and they've been handing on down in the family, from father to son, the fine art of turning luscious, sun-ripened grapes into fragrant, delicious wine. And that sure adds up to a lot of experience. You can just bet your last dollar that no matter what kind of wine you want, when you ask for a Petri wine, you're asking for good wine. Because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what story are you planning to tell us next week?
Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you of a strange adventure that Sherlock Holmes and I had in the East End of London. It concerns 5 nephews, an eccentric will, and a dead man's watch that gave us the clue to murder.
Tonight, Sherlock Green's adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of the Red Circle. Music is by Dean Fostler. Mr. Rathbone appeared through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures. They are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series.
You know, the lives of Holmes and Watson were not always filled with action. They spent many a quiet evening at home in Baker Street, discussing the problems of the world over a glass of port. You know, it seems that no wine is more expressive of friendship and hospitality than port. And I'm sure there's no port wine more enjoyable than Petri California port. Try a good glass of Petri port after dinner some evening, or any time you get together with your friends. You'll love the rich, ruby-red color of that Petri port. You'll love its smoothness and full body, its remarkable and wonderful flavor, a flavor that comes straight from the heart of luscious, hand-picked grapes. Serve that Petri port alone, or serve it together with cake or cookies or with fruit. Yes, and serve it proudly. You can, because the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now I'm sure our old friend Dr. Watson's expecting us. Let's tap on his study door.
Come in.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. Come over here by the fire. I was just having a cup of coffee. Would you care to join me?
Thanks, that'd be nice.
It'll prevent you falling asleep during my story tonight.
There's no chance of that, Doctor. From the hint you gave us last week, it sounded like quite a story. It began in a circus in Paris, you told us?
Yes, my boy, the circus. A colorful world of sawdust and spangles. A world, Mr. Bartell, that I may tell you confidentially, always held an irresistible fascination for me when I was a youngster.
Me too, Doctor.
In fact, when I was 8 years old, I fell desperately in love with a lady bareback rider, a stunning creature who wore pink silk tights with gold sequins on them. Unfortunately, my mother caught me writing her proposal of marriage, and I'm afraid that, well, it's another story, and one that you probably wouldn't find very interesting.
I'm sure I would, Doctor, but I think it would be safer to stick to your Sherlock Holmes story.
Yes, you're probably right, my boy. Well, it was a winter in the 1890s, and Holmes and I were in Paris. On our second day there, Holmes suggested we attend that night's performance of the Cirque Royale. Needless to remark, I was delighted, Mr. Bartell. And shortly after 9 o'clock that night, I found myself seated beside Holmes in a box near the ringside. It was an incredibly vivid scene, even for that city of colour and light. The gay costumes of the women and the gaudy trappings of the ringmasters and clowns looked like a giant kaleidoscope under the blazing glare of the arc lamps. As we sat there, a brass band nearby blared forth some popular music of the day, and yet he didn't appear to be enjoying himself, and so I leaned across and touched his arm.
What is it, Watson?
Well, you're very quiet, Holmes. Aren't you having a good time?
A good time, I suppose, old chap. I was just wondering where Mr. Edwards is.
Mr. Edwards? Who's he?
An extremely distinguished client who was to meet us in this box at 9 o'clock.
Client. Oh, this little excursion was on business after all. Yes, I might have known it.
No worry, old fellow. In your case, I think you'll be able to combine quite a little pleasure with the business.
Well, can't you be a little more explicit, Holmes?
Shh. Here comes the ringmaster.
Mesdames et messieurs, j'ai l'honneur de vous présenter ce soir la grande vedette du cirque, Mademoiselle Gisèle Girondet, équestrienne incomparable.
Gisèle Girondet, yes, I've heard of her. She's a bareback rider, isn't she,
Honest in France, old fellow. She also has quite a reputation as a femme fatale. 3 duels have been fought over her. A young English officer in the Grenadier Guards committed suicide last year because of her. And a famous French banker is at present languishing in prison because her extravagances drove him to appropriate funds that did not belong to him. Yes, Watson, she's an extremely colourful personality.
You know, Holmes, the funny thing, when I was 8 years old, I fell violently in love with a lady bareback rider. She wore pink silk tights with golden sequins on them, but unfortunately...
Here she is, old fellow. Here she is.
Holmes, she's exquisite. Look at the way she's jumping from the back of one horse to the other. Sheer poetry of motion.
The lady appeals to you, Watson.
By George, yes, indeed she does. In fact, Holmes, I don't mind telling you that if I weren't a married man and a poor man...
you'd like to court the lady, eh?
Yes, I should
Excellent,
indeed.
old fellow, excellent. That's the very reason for our attendance at the
Well,
circus.
what in heaven's name are you talking about, Holmes?
Ah, there you are. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Holmes, my dear fellow, how are you? I haven't seen you since that little affair at Windsor Castle when Mother...
Excuse me, sir. I am Mr. Mycroft, and this is my friend, Sir William Nigel.
William Nigel?
Of course. And I am Mr. Edwards. We must respect each other's incognitos, eh? How do you do, Sir William?
Well, I'm extremely honored to meet you, Your Royal... Mr. Edwards.
How'd you like Giselle? Isn't she a stunning creature?
Yes, indeed she is, sir.
The four of us to have supper together after the performance tonight, I understand, Mr. Edwards.
Well, unfortunately, I can't be there, Mycroft. There's some stupid affair at the embassy which I have to attend. We must postpone the dinner until tomorrow night.
Oh, very well, sir.
Come over to my hotel a little early and we can discuss the whole business. Personally, I think a lot of fuss is being made about nothing. Now, if you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I must go back and see Giselle for a moment and tell her that I can't keep our appointment for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow, Mycroft. Good night, Sir William.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Et maintenant, pour votre plaisir, les frères Salini, les jongleurs internationaux.
Holmes, what's all this mystery? That wasn't Mr. Edwards, it was the Prince of...
Shh, Watson, please. Discretion, old fellow. Mr. Edwards, as you know, is extremely democratic. Too much so, possibly. when one considers his position and responsibilities. He's become quite seriously involved with Mademoiselle Giselle, the lady bareback rider who has just left the ring.
Oh, so that's it.
The Foreign Office, quite naturally, I suppose, is deeply concerned over the matter, and I've been entrusted with the delicate mission of protecting Mr. Edwards.
Oh, does Giselle Gironde know that his true identity, do you suppose?
That's the first thing that we have to find out. It's possible that she is simply captivated by having a rich Englishman at her feet. If, on the other hand, she knows who Mr. Edwards is, then we may be in for a great deal of trouble.
Yes, but how are you going to find that out?
By tempting her with a richer Englishman. And one with a title. That, my dear fellow, is why you are Sir William Nigel.
You mean that
Your job, old fellow, is to do your utmost to steal Giselle Gironde from Mr. Edwards.
But, I don't even know the girl.
We shall remedy that defect in a few minutes. As soon as the performance is over, my dear chap, I shall take you to her dressing room and arrange an introduction.
I must say, Holmes, the backstage life at a circus is even more colorful than in the ring.
What makes you say that, old fellow?
Well, I just saw a pinhead having tea with a bearded lady while a sword swallower was standing behind him practicing his act.
Oh, hello. See that man standing talking to the girl in tights?
Yeah, effective, isn't he?
The gentleman is Inspector Vernet of the French police, an old friend and a distant relative of mine. Vernet, how are you?
Ah, Holmes, mon cher ami, comment ça va?
No, Vernet, please. On this occasion, my name is Mycroft, if you don't mind, and this is my friend, Sir William Nigel.
How do you do, Inspector?
Enchanté, Sir William. Permit me to introduce Mademoiselle Yvette Marat.
How you do?
How do you do, madame?
What brings you behind the scenes at the circus, may I ask, mon cher Mycroft?
My friend Sir William is most anxious to make the acquaintance of Mademoiselle Gironde.
But of course, every man wishes to meet Giselle Gironde. Why not ask Vernet? He will present you to her. Ha! He knows the way.
Oh, now, Yvette, chérie, do not begin that all over again.
You're in love with her. You've always been in love with her. I wish you were dead. Sometimes I think I could kill her myself.
On my soul, Inspector, she's a fiery little thing, isn't she?
Ah, ça c'est vrai, ça, Sir William. Many times I've told her that Giselle Gironde would never waste her time with a simple police inspector. She prefers a wealthy foreigner. But Yvette ne comprend pas. She does not understand and she does not believe.
Mademoiselle Marat was dressed in tights, Vernet. What does she do in the circus?
She walks the tightrope.
Oh,
She's
yes.
queen of the high wire.
Mm-hmm.
A charming and a talented girl, but a most jealous one.
Vernet, my distinguished friend Sir William Nigel is most anxious to meet Giselle Gironde. Will you introduce him? I should prefer not to appear on the matter at this stage.
Oh, mais certainement. I will take you to her dressing room. Please come with me, Sir William.
Yeah, right. I'll see you later, Holmes.
I'll be waiting for you, old chap. Good luck.
You're a lucky man, Sir William. Giselle has quite a penchant for the Englishmen. And when they are rich and have a title, I am sure she finds them irresistible.
You think so?
Oh, but of course. Ah, quel dommage that I'm only a poor policeman. Here we are.
Entrez.
Giselle, mon chou, permit me to present to you Sir William Nigel. He's a great admirer of yours.
Yes, indeed, madam.
Ah, Sir William Nigel. Come and sit here beside me, Sir William.
I shall leave you. Au revoir.
Sit closer. There. That is much more cozy, no?
Oh, it's nice of you to see me, Mademoiselle Gironde.
Oh, don't be so formal, my Englishman. You may call me Giselle, and I shall call you... Let me see, I shall call you Sir William... Willie! I shall call you Willie. You do not mind?
Mine, I'm so delightful. Quite delightful, my dear. I was hoping perhaps that you'd care to have a little supper with me tonight, Giselle. So what about some oysters, a cold pheasant, and a bottle or two of Pomeranian Green 072? And you get to taste rather well, don't you think?
Oh, Willie, I can see you are a perfect host.
I don't know about
One
that.
moment, I get my cloak.
Well, you know, Giselle, it's a funny thing.
What is a funny thing, Willie?
When I was 8 years old, I fell violently in love with a lady bareback rider at a circus. History seems to be repeating itself.
Here.
Alfieri, do you no longer knock when you come to my door?
Who is this man?
My name is Nigel, Sir William Nigel, my good man, and who may you be?
I am Alfio Alfieri.
I am Alfio Alfieri. And what is he? Ha! A trainer of wild animals, an ambusher,
Va-t'en!
You must not speak to Wolf. You are not where you belong. To me. Send this stupid Englishman away.
Confounded impudence.
Grossier. Belong to you. Giselle belong to no one.
Do I have to take my whip to
Put
you?
down that whip. Put it down, you scoundrel.
Next time it will be your face, Carla.
You infernal blackguard. Raising your hand against a woman. Shocking.
Bravo! Mon cher Willie has knocked him down.
He certainly deserved it.
Oui. And you in turn deserve something, Willie.
Oh, what was that?
Come close, Willie, and I give it to you. A little kiss.
Oh, yes. Thanks awfully.
Oh, Willie, you are so strong, so resolute, so brave.
Oh, it was nothing, my dear Giselle. Nothing at all. Here, more champagne, garçon. More champagne.
Oh, Willie!
Giselle?
Oui, Monsieur Edwards?
I have a box for the opera tomorrow night. I was hoping that perhaps...
Oh, I'm sorry, Monsieur, but my time is occupied. I am showing the delightsome moment to mon cher Willie.
Mademoiselle aime mieux le collier de perles à 5 rangs ou celui à 3 rangs?
He says, which do I prefer, the 5-string color pearls or the 3-string color pearls? What does my Willie think?
So that you can't hang too many pearls on a pretty neck like yours. I'll take the 5-string collar, my good fellow.
You're doing splendidly, Watson, splendidly.
Yes, but Holmes, I felt such a blasted fool handing that jeweler fellow a check signed by Sir William Nigel. Are you quite sure that it'll be honored?
Don't worry, old fellow. Remember who our client is. Money is the least important concern in this matter. On with the masquerade, old fellow. On with the masquerade.
More champagne, garçon.
Willie, you are such a headstrong boy.
More champagne. Giselle, you dear little thing.
Oh, Willie!
Good evening, Vernet. Has Mademoiselle Girondet come into the evening performance yet?
Yes, Monsieur Holmes. I escorted her to her dressing room half an hour ago. Monsieur Edwards is in there with her now. At last, it seems, she has use for a poor policeman. Last night, she found a threatening letter on her makeup table. Since then, she has been most grateful for my company.
A threatening letter, eh? Any idea who might have sent it?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm afraid I have, Monsieur Holmes. I told her to pay no attention. By the perfume of the notepaper, I recognized the sender. A jealous tightrope walker called Yvette Marat.
Oh.
Poor Yvette. She would make a very inferior criminal, I'm afraid. Still, Giselle asked me to stay outside her dressing room till the performance starts. You wish to see her?
Yes. Oh, good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Evening, Mycroft. Evening, Inspector Werner.
Comment ça va, Monsieur Edwards?
Look here, Mycroft. I think this little game's gone far enough. Giselle has just refused another invitation of mine. Now, I know who Sir William Nigel is, and I swear I'll tell her.
Don't you think, sir, that the lady is hardly worth bothering about? Surely this whole incident with Sir William proves that she's a scheming little adventuress. A fictitious title and an apparently bottomless purse have shown her up in her true colors.
I could have told you the same thing without such an experiment, my friend.
Well, I suppose you're right, Mycroft. I've been a fool. An idiot who lets a pretty ankle turn his head. A conceited dope.
Let us just say, monsieur, that you have been a man.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just going back to see Giselle for a moment, I brought us these flowers for her. I'll be back in a jiffy.
Just a minute, Watson. I hate to dampen your ardor, old chap, but the masquerade is ended.
Ended? What do you mean it's
It is no
ended?
longer necessary for you to impersonate Sir William Nigel or to pay court to Giselle.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Really? Well, that's a great relief, sir. Great relief. I've hated the whole business.
Oh, yes, I'm sure you have. We appreciate the sacrifices that you've made, don't we, Sir Edward?
Yes, indeed.
Well, I must go back and see her once more, though. We had a rendezvous for tonight, and I must cancel it. A gentlemanly thing to do, you know. I won't be a minute.
Never have I seen a man more downcast. Obviously, with him, my dear Holmes, business was a pleasure. Alfieri, where are you going?
That Englishman. I just saw him go into Giselle's room.
To whom are you referring?
That man that call himself Sir William Nigel.
Oh, yes.
2 days ago he strike me. I have to settle with him. No man may strike Alfieri.
Do not cause any more trouble, Alfieri. From what I've been told, you thoroughly deserved what happened to you.
Here he come now. You, English, you! Alfieri challenge you to a duel.
Holmes! Holmes!
Watson, old chap, what is it? You're as white as a ghost.
It's Giselle.
What's wrong with her?
She's dead. She's lying there in her dressing room. Strangled.
Strangled? And only half an hour ago I spoke with her myself. Since then I've been standing in this corridor, guarding her door at her own request. Only 2 men have entered Giselle's dressing room since then. You, Monsieur Edwards, and you, Sir William Nigel.
What are you suggesting, Vernet?
I am suggesting nothing. I am stating that these 2 gentlemen are under arrest for suspicion of murder.
Dr. Watson's unusual story will continue in just a few seconds. Well, Dr. Watson, so you and the mysterious Mr. Edwards got yourselves arrested on suspicion of murder, huh?
Yes, Mr. Bartell. Holmes did everything in his power to persuade Inspector Vernet to release us, but it was useless. And so, while Mr. Edwards and myself were languishing in detention cells at the local Sûreté, Holmes and the French inspector were examining the dressing room of the dead woman.
I'm sure, Inspector Vernet, that being as keen a detective as you are, you must suspect the true identity of Mr. Edwards.
Of course, Monsieur Holmes. But that is the danger of incognitos. If he chooses to assume the identity of plain Monsieur Edwards, then he must run the risks of plain Monsieur
And
Edwards.
you're convinced that either he or my friend strangled Mademoiselle Girondet?
It is obvious.
Then I'll have to prove to you that they didn't. Let me examine the body again, will you? If she had been strangled by either of my friends, why would her body be lying here under the window? It's as far away from the door by which they left this room as possible.
That proves nothing.
No, but it's odd.
Giselle was a strong girl. There might easily have been a struggle. Perhaps she tried to get away through the window.
And yet there are no marks of violence on her throat. Just this piece of very fine cord that did its deadly work so cleanly. Cut with a knife.
Please do not remove the cord, Monsieur Holmes. The body has not yet been photographed.
Dear me, Vernet, you're making it very hard for me, aren't you? You notice, of course, that the window is open.
Yes, but we have examined the snow outside. There were no footprints within 3 yards of the window. The murderer must have entered by the door that I was watching.
Yes, it would be hard, even for a professional acrobat to jump in. An acrobat? Vernet, your young friend, Mademoiselle Yvette Marat, is a tightrope walker.
Yvette, but...
Yes, she certainly had a motive. She'd even sent a threatening letter. I heard her express hatred and jealousy for this dead woman. It's conceivable that she could enter a room by a window without leaving footprints in the snow. Where was she at the time of the murder?
I do not know. I was waiting for her in the corridor.
Then I suggest that we investigate her alibi at once. And after that, Inspector, I must pay a visit to the Sûreté. I don't want my friends to think that I've deserted them. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Holmes.
I'm afraid it looks rather black. As I was telling you, Yvette Marat, the tightrope walker, was able to establish a completely satisfactory alibi. Vernet still suspects you or Dr. Watson.
Well, that's ridiculous.
May I ask you a very straightforward question, sir?
Of course.
I can well understand that if you had gone into the dressing room and found the woman already murdered, you might easily be tempted to conceal the fact, to avoid a scandal involving your person. Will you swear to me, sir, on your true identity, that Giselle was alive when you left her?
She was, Holmes. I swear it.
Thank you, sir. That's all I wanted to know.
Holmes, I'm glad to see you. You know, I've been thinking. All this depends on Vernet's evidence. But supposing he was the murderer. He told us that Giselle had turned him down, you know.
I'd thought of that, but Mr. Edwards swears that Giselle was alive when he left the room. And yet that means that Mr. Edwards... Oh, no, it's unthinkable.
Holmes, you're not suggesting... Holmes, if I thought that were possible, I'd confess to the murder myself. My life wouldn't matter if it would save a scandal like that. Great Scott, it'd shatter the empire.
Dear old Watson, you shall not sacrifice yourself. You're as valuable a British institution as the Lion himself. No, my dear fellow. We shall never sacrifice you, not while my mind is still capable of... My mind? That's it. Thank you, Watson. You've given me the answer.
Holmes, what are you burbling
Be
about
patient,
now?
old fellow. In half an hour, you'll be out of this cell, and the real murderer will be in it.
Questions. Why must Alfieri answer so many questions?
Because he will not yet tell the truth. You murdered Giselle Girondet.
How many times I have to tell you I did not kill her? Why should I want to harm her?
Because you were jealous. Because she humiliated and tormented you.
But I was not in her dressing room. I've already proved that fact. Am I a magician that I can kill somebody without entering a room?
Alfieri, I know how you killed Giselle Girondet without its necessitating your entering this room.
And you're a smart man. Please to tell me.
I don't need to tell you. With the aid of Vernet, I'll show you. Open the window, Alfieri.
What game is this?
Very well, then. I'll open the window myself. Put your head out. Come on. So. Who do you see? Inspector Vernet, standing 3 yards away, where you stood, and he's got your long training whip.
No!
Don't move! Stand there. The inspector hasn't your skill with a whip, but he wants to try a little experiment.
No, leave him alone!
All right, Vernet. I'm holding him.
Well, Mr. Edwards, I mean, well, sir, this is a pleasant change from a prison cell, isn't it?
It certainly is. Holmes, I can't tell you how grateful I am. I still don't quite understand how you did it.
Watson, in rather a roundabout way, was responsible for giving me the clue.
Oh, how was that, Holmes?
Well, on more than one occasion, old chap, I've had cause to deplore your rather florid style of writing. Tonight, I was very thankful for it. When I began to speak of the capabilities of my mind, suddenly I remembered a phrase of yours in which you referred to its whip-like rapidity and accuracy. That, of course, made me think of Alfieri, the animal trainer.
Exactly how did he kill the poor girl?
Well, sir, he stood outside the window, far enough away to leave no incriminating footprints. Called to Giselle, probably persuaded her to lean out, then snapped the whip around her neck, pulling it tight and strangling her.
And then I suppose he cut the cord and let the body fall back into the room.
Precisely, old fellow. We found a whipstock among his tackle, a whipstock from which the lash had been cut. The stub of lash left matched the cord around the dead girl's throat.
Amazing business. And I don't mind telling you, fellas, I'm very thankful to be through with it.
Yes, so am I, sir. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this whole incident cures me of my love of circuses.
Oh, I didn't know you had a predilection in that direction, Watson.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, if you don't mind my saying so. When he was 8 years old, he fell in love with a lady bareback rider. Didn't you, Watson?
Indeed. What happened?
Well, sir, I don't remember her name, but she wore pink silk tights with golden sequins on them. And I wrote her a rather hot-headed letter. Unfortunately, my mother...
And now I'm sure our good friend Dr. Watson's waiting for us. Let's go enjoy.
There you are, Mr. Bartell.
Good evening, Doctor. We're all alone tonight, huh?
Yes, my boy, if you can call a man alone when he's got his pipe, his books, and a glass of good port at his elbow. Take your coat off. The fellow enjoyment.
Thanks, Doctor.
Help yourself to the port. There's some rather special tobacco in the jar over there.
Fine. And now, Doctor, are you ready to tell us tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
I am, Mr. Bartell, and I think you'll find it a most unusual story. It began on a winter's night in 1896. Holmes and I had gone to a theatre in the East End of London to see a performance of a famous old English melodrama called Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
That's a good bloodthirsty title, Doctor. Demon Barber. He sounds as though he specialized in close shaves.
Good gracious me, Mr. Bartell, that's almost unforgivable. He was a murderer of voracious appetite who placed his victims in a specially constructed barber's chair, cut their throats, and then pressed a lever that would swing the chair over and decamp the unfortunate victim into a horrible cellar beneath his shop.
This is only a stage play you're talking about, Doctor.
As my story begins, we were seated in a private box watching one of the closing scenes. Holmes was leaning forward in his chair, following the action on the stage with an obvious delight, while I sat beside him equally engrossed. An actor by the name of Mark Humphreys was playing the part of Sweeney Todd, and no one could deny that he was playing it.
Where are you going, Tobias? To the nearest magistrate, Sweeney Todd.
to denounce you as a fiendish, cruel, cold-blooded murderer.
You have pronounced your doom. Into the chair with you, and over and down into the depths below. Ha, 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 there. Whence comes this apparition? 'Tis the ghost of another customer of mine. The yawning grave yields up his ghastly inmates to prove me guilt. Blood! We'll have blood! See, he is there. He comes to accuse me of his murder. Oh, save me! 'Twas not I that slew you. Let me leave, or it will kill me. Let me leave! Ha! Ha, ha,
Oh, upon my soul, Holmes, that fellow Mark Humphreys is the most florid actor that I've ever seen on a stage.
I find him enchanting, Watson. It seems to me he's really caught the flavor of this murderous monster piece. After all, a restrained performance of the Barber Sweeney Todd would be unthinkable.
Yes, I suppose it would. I must say his makeup seems rather overdone. No barber would wear such an enormous beard. It'd be most impractical. Probably get in the customers' faces. By the way, I noticed from the program that Mark Humphreys, as well as being the principal actor, is also the owner of the company.
Yes, the current trend toward the actor-manager is a healthy sign, I think. Come in.
Excuse me, but is one of you gentlemen Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I was asked to give you this note.
Thank you.
Now, who on earth knows that you're at the theatre, Holmes?
We'll soon find out. Ah, this note is from Mark Humphreys, our actor-manager.
What's it say?
Dear Mr. Holmes, I recognize you in your box. Please come to my dressing room after the performance. My sanity, and even the safety of London, perhaps, depends on your compliance.
Good Lord, my sanity and the safety of London. I wonder what on earth he means.
That, my dear fellow, we can only discover by going backstage to meet him. As it is, the curtain's going up in the last scene I see. For a little longer, we must possess our souls in patience.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, sir?
Oh, my name is Lindsay. Derek Lindsay. I'm the business manager. Mr. Humphreys asked me to meet you at the stage door and take you to his dressing room.
Thank you very much. This is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
Oh, how are you, Doctor? Will you follow me, please?
Excuse me asking, Mr. Lindsay, but surely you must be related to that distinguished actor of some years back, Lytton Lindsay.
He was my father, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, indeed. The resemblance is extraordinary.
With such a heritage, Mr. Lindsay, you must love the theatre.
It'll probably sound like heresy, but I hate it. However, it's the only thing I was trained for, and there's good money to be made in it, sometimes. And money's the thing I both like and want. Oh, Mr. Holmes, I do hope you'll be able to help Mark Humphreys. He certainly needs it.
Oh, really? What seems to be his trouble?
Oh, he'll have to tell you that for himself. But his wife and I think... There's Mrs. Humphreys now. Maria, this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Mrs. Mark Humphreys.
How do you do?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, I'm so grateful that you're going to see Mark. He's in such a dreadful state. There have been times lately when Mr. Lindsay and I have been afraid he's going out of his mind, haven't we, Derek?
Indeed we have. We're both dreadfully worried about him.
In that case, I hope I can be of service. Which is his dressing room?
Number 1, next door to mine. Derek, I think it'll be better if Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson go in alone. I'm sure Mark will speak more freely if we're not in the room.
I think perhaps that is a good idea, Mrs. Humphreys. We'll see you later on. Come on, fellow.
Come in.
Thank heaven you're here. Close the door.
Mr. Humphreys, this is Dr. Watson.
Watson, eh? Yes, I know of you, too.
How do you do, sir?
Sit down, won't you, gentlemen? You're wondering why I asked you to come back and see me, of course.
Naturally, sir.
Well, I won't beat about the bush and waste your time. I'll come straight to the point. I'm going mad.
Oh, come.
I know. It sounds fantastic, but it's true. I've often heard of actors beginning to live perhaps off the stage. They play on it. Well, it's happening to me. I'm turning into another Sweeney Todd. The character I'm portraying on the stage.
Are you suggesting, sir, that you're a potential murderer?
Yes, I am.
What reason do you have for holding that belief?
Reason? Listen to this. 3 times in the past week, I've wakened in the morning to find my boots covered with mud and my razor stained with blood.
You've had no recollection of any untoward events during the night?
None.
Have you ever been addicted to the unfortunate habit of sleepwalking, sir?
Not to my knowledge, Doctor. And if I had been, Surely my wife would have told me about
Your wife? Where do you live, Mr. Humphreys?
We have a flat here above the theatre.
Above the theatre, eh? And Mr. Humphreys, you say that on 3 separate occasions in the morning, you have found a blood-stained razor and mud-covered boots. Can you show us this proof?
No, I can't. I was always so frightened that my wife would see that I cleaned them before she had the opportunity of finding them.
It is, sir. They would have been very valuable clues in a case like this.
I couldn't risk my wife seeing evidence like that. Doctor, she'd know the truth. But at night times, while she's asleep, some devilish, unconscious urge has overcome me. An urge that causes me to prowl the streets of London. Razor in hand, looking for a victim. Mr. Holmes, you've got to help me. I'm certain that without knowing it, I've been committing murder, and if you don't help me, I'll go on and on.
Mr. Humphreys, please. I'll undertake the case. It's a very unique assignment. In effect, I'm being engaged by a possible murderer to prove him guilty.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I've been through all the records we have here at Scotland Yard.
What have you found, Inspector Gregson?
In the last 2 months, we haven't had one case of an unsolved killing with a razor.
Any mysterious disappearances, Inspector?
Bless your heart, Doctor. There's never a day that passes without one or two of them. Here's a list of them, Mr. Holmes, if it's any use to you.
Thanks. Come on, Watson. In the morning, we can go back to the theatre and set our friend's mind at rest. I'm much obliged to you, Gregson.
Glad to be of service, Mr. Holmes.
We examined the homicide records at Scotland Yard after leaving you last night, Mr. Humphreys. There have been no unsolved razor murders in London during the past fortnight.
And therefore I think you may rest easy on that score, sir.
But it proves nothing. Remember that in the play, Sweeney Todd's victims are never found either.
Yes, thanks to his singularly horrible ingenuity in disposing of them. But this is real life, Mr. Humphreys.
Then how do you account for the bloodied razors and the muddied boots?
Well, now, are you sure that they aren't just in your imagination, sir? You admit that your wife's never seen them? The whole thing could be, or shall we say, an overdose of Sweeney Todd?
Well, I admit that I'm suffering from a surfeit of that.
And why not drop the play from your repertoire?
Our manager, Derek Lindsay, won't let me. It's our best money-maker. He's always got a keen eye to business. Mr. Holmes, I can see that you still don't believe my story. So I've saved some evidence for you, evidence that I found this morning. Look at these. Now what do you say? Do you still think it's my imagination?
Cutter, blood-stained razor, and boots covered with mud.
Splendid. At last, some real clues to work on.
How can you be so calm, Holmes? It happened again last night. Do you realize that I'm a murderer? I'm a menace to society? For heaven's sake, lock me up before I do some more damage.
No, sir. Don't get so excited.
Mr. Humphreys, I should like to take these objects back to Baker Street where I can perform some chemical tests. You have no objections, I hope?
Objections? Good heavens, no.
Excellent. You've told no one of this fresh discovery of yours?
No one. Not even Derek Lindsay.
Derek Lindsay, that's your manager, isn't it?
Yes. The best friend I ever had. Except for his father before him. It was Derek who helped me back on my feet 2 years ago, when I put on that disastrous production of Macbeth. Don't know where I'd be today if it went for him.
You lost a great deal of money on that production, sir.
Nearly every penny I had.
Indeed. By the way, where is your wife, Mr. Humphreys?
She's in her dressing room next door. The matinee today, you know.
I'd like a word with her. Watson, old chap. Wait here for me, will you? I won't be a moment.
Right, you are, Holmes.
Who is it?
Sherlock Holmes.
You want to talk to me, Mr. Holmes?
For a moment. May I come in, Mrs. Humphreys?
Well, couldn't we talk on the stage? It's empty.
I should prefer to come into your dressing room, if you don't mind. What I have to say is confidential.
Very well, then. Come in. Mr. Holmes, may I introduce Signor Vanelli, our musical director?
How do you do, sir?
It is a great honor to meet the so great Signor Holmes. I have so admired you. Oh, often I have envied you. Many times I say to myself, Giuseppe,
Signor Vanelli, if you don't mind, I wish to speak to Mrs. Humphreys alone.
Oh, I quite understand. Excuse me, Signor. Adios, Cara Maria.
Mr. Holmes, I'm really awfully glad of this opportunity to talk to you. Tell me truthfully, please, what's your opinion of my husband?
I haven't formed a definite opinion yet, except that it's possible that he's the victim of a fraud. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Of course not, Mr. Holmes.
Has your husband ever shown evidence of being a sleepwalker?
A sleepwalker? Oh, no, never.
I see. Are you a light sleeper?
Yes, I am. Exceptionally so. Right.
Oh, just curious.
You're being very mysterious, Mr. Holmes. Can't you tell even me what's going on?
I promised your husband the answer to that question before tonight's performance. I'm afraid I can't tell you any more until then.
Oh. And now may I ask a question?
Oh, certainly. Though I won't promise to answer it.
You said just now that my husband might be the victim of a fraud. What did you mean?
Again, I'm afraid that you must wait for the specific answer to that question. However, there's another fraud being practiced on him that I can speak of now.
What fraud?
The fraud that you are indulging in, Mrs. Humphreys.
What do you mean?
Of course, this particular fraud is none of my business, but when I almost force my way into your dressing room and find your musical director, a quantity of rice powder on one shoulder and suggestions of rouge on his cheek, it doesn't take a great deal of intelligence to deduce that your husband is being deceived.
Get out of here at once.
That's exactly what I propose doing. Good day to you, madam. No doubt I shall see you later on.
Well, Holmes, what does the microscope tell you about the mud on the boots and the blood stains on the razor?
On a blank on the mud, old chap. It's the common type that is found in most parts of London.
And the blood?
I'm examining that now.
It's as strange a case as ever I remember, Holmes. Here you are trying to prove a man innocent when he insists that he's guilty.
By George, Watson! Here's the answer.
What?
This blood is definitely not human blood. It's probably canine. Now, a Sweeney Todd madness would hardly drive its victim to kill dogs. Therefore, it's obvious that Mark Humphreys is the victim of a devilish plot.
And he's not a murderer.
No, come on, old fellow. Let's go to the theater at once and give him the good news.
Word of the answer. 3/4 of an hour before the time.
Oh, it must be in his dressing room. I'll knock again. Come on, Watson, let's go in.
Holmes, look. Look, he's slumped over his dressing table.
I hope we're not too late. Here, give me a hand with him.
We are too late. His throat's been cut.
Poor devil. I promised him a solution to his troubles before the night was over. Little did I think that the solution would be death.
Well, Dr. Watson, what happened next?
Well, I think I'll pick up the story exactly where I left off. Holmes and I were standing in Mark Humphrey's dressing room, looking with horror at the flashed throat of the actor-manager. There was a bitter, self-accusing note in Holmes's voice.
I promised him a solution to his troubles before tonight was over. Little did I think that solution would be death.
This worry over his supposed madness caused him to commit suicide.
Suicide? Rubbish, old fellow. It's murder.
Look at the razor clutched in his hand.
Undoubtedly placed there by the murderer before rigor mortis had a chance to set in. In any case, scrutinize the wound. Does that look as if it had been done by the hand of a suicide?
Well, I don't see why not.
Look closer, old chap. The depth of the wound is even, whereas a suicide cut always wavers towards the end. No, this is murder, Watson, and I think I know who did it. But I have little evidence. I must lay a trap.
What kind of a trap, Holmes?
I haven't time to tell you now, fellow. Every moment counts. Off with you to Scotland Yard and get Inspector Gregson. Bring him back here as fast as you can.
Right you are.
And Watson.
Yes?
Tell absolutely no one except Gregson of Mark Humphrey's death. And say that he's still alive and well and that his problems are solved.
It's the performance of the play.
Don't you worry about that, old chap. Off with you to Scotland Yard.
I'm sorry it took so long to find me, Dr. Watson. I was out on another case.
No, that's all right, Inspector. The performance, if there is one, must be nearly over by now.
Here's the stage door, sir.
Yes, here we are.
Here, you can't go on the stage.
Who says I can't? I'm Inspector Gregson of Scotland Yard.
Oh, sorry.
Performance is going on. I wonder who the devil's playing Sweeney Todd. Come along, let's stand here in the wings.
Quietly. It was only the wind whistling through this cellar.
But this is impossible. There's Mark Humphreys on the stage. I saw him with his throat cut.
I don't believe in ghosts, Doctor.
Great heavens, it's Holmes.
Like that. Who's this? It's you, Mrs. Summers. Somebody seems to cut your throat. What a pity. No more few fines. Tell Sweeney Todd who cut your throat, dearie, and you'll cut their throats, too. He'll revenge you while you burn down there in hell, dearie. He'll revenge you.
Here he comes now, Gregson.
Amazing disguise. I never have recognized him.
You're both here.
Holmes, what are you up to?
Surely that's apparent. I disguised myself as the dead man, hoping to force the murderer's hand.
You're running a terrible risk, Mr. Holmes.
Part of my profession, Gregson. Shh. Here comes Signor Vanelli, the musical director.
Dear fellow, I had to leave the orchestra pit to come and congratulate you. Never have you given a finer performance. Bravissimo, bravissimo.
Thank you.
But it is true. You hardly seem the same person. Your performance is incomparable. Keep it up, Mark. Keep it up.
I think he spotted you, Holmes.
Yes, sir. I didn't like his look as he said that.
Well, whoever it is, they've got to show their hands soon. The curtain's going up in the last scene. Keep your eyes open and suspect everyone.
Look, my lord, judge. He's by your side. Do not disappear. Your ermine robe is stained with blood.
Sweeney Todd, what dark deed presses on your conscience?
Was a dark, foul deed, but heed not what you hear, Lord Judge, nor what you see. Still the figure sits there. I hear it come to this. It is useless to deny my guilt. The very dead rise from their settlements to prove Sweeney Todd a murderer.
By George, what an actor he'd have made, Doctor.
Yes, what an actor he is, Gregson. I'll be hanged if I know how he remembers the lines, though, even if he has seen the play half a dozen times. Here he comes now. Bravo, Holmes. You did splendidly.
But it didn't work, Watson. It didn't work, confound it. The murderer still hasn't tipped his hand. Have I underestimated him?
Looks as if you have, sir. And if you don't mind my saying so, I think you'd have been a lot wiser to let me handle the case as soon as you found his body, instead of going in for all this dressing up stuff.
Oh, but of course. Now I see it. Only one person could have killed Mark Humphreys.
Who, Holmes?
Do as I say, and I'll show you. I'm going to Humphreys' dressing room now, alone. Give me a few moments' start, and then follow me. Out of sight, but within earshot.
Dr. Watson, why does Mr. Holmes always have to be so blooming mysterious? Why can't he just say who the murderer is and take us to him?
Well, I've been with Mr. Holmes on a great many cases, Gregson, and yet I can't answer that question. Come along. You've got a big enough start now. Let's follow him.
I'm very fond of Mr. Holmes, you know, Doctor, and yet there are times when I get so angry with him, he shouldn't risk his life like that.
You know Mr. Holmes. He will never change.
And if he don't, one of these days he's going to wake up and find himself dead.
That's the door.
Someone inside with him.
You devil, Humphreys! How many times do I have to kill you?
Great Scott, it's Derek Lindsay, the business manager. Come along, Gregson.
No, Lindsay! You succeeded in killing Humphreys, but you won't kill me. Grab his arm. Look out for that razor.
Here, you.
Let go of me!
No, you don't.
Very neat, Gregson.
Are you all right, Holmes?
Perfectly, thanks, old chap, though I'm a little tired. Gregson, my dear fellow, will you take over from here? I think I've had enough melodrama for one day. How pleasant, Watson, to be back at Baker Street again, a crackling fire, my dressing gown, and your company combined to make a soothing ending to a somewhat violent day.
It's been a most unusual case, Holmes. I still don't entirely understand it. The original plot, of course, was to try and drive Mark Humphreys mad by making him think that he was a murderer. That accounts for the boots and the blood-stained razor.
Precisely, my dear fellow. And the killer, having conditioned his victim by this trickery, then murdered him, trying to make it appear a suicide. Now, who had a motive?
3 people, Mrs. Humphreys, her lover, Signor Vanelli, and Derek Lindsay. I must say that I suspected the wife.
Well, so did I for a while, and yet it was illogical. She knew, and we may therefore presume that her lover knew, that I was suspicious of her.
And she must have known that you promised her husband a solution to his troubles before the night was out. It seems highly improbable that she or Signor Vanelli would have faked his suicide at that point.
Quite right, my dear fellow. So I investigated Derek Lindsay's affairs, and I found that what Humphreys had referred to as the kindly act of a friend in helping him back onto his feet was in reality the mortgaging of his entire theatrical effects. Lindsay stood to inherit the theater on Humphrey's death. Therefore, I was convinced that he was the killer.
And then, after he'd murdered him, he saw what he thought to be Mark Humphreys on the stage.
Ah, that's where I was slow and stupid, old chap. I couldn't imagine what motive gave the cold, clear nerve to suppress all reactions when he saw his supposed victim revived on the stage. Only at that moment did I realize.
What was the motive that made him hold his hand?
The characteristic that ruled his life, Watson, avarice, a morbid love of money. You see, if he'd attacked me during the performance, he'd have had to refund the money to the audience. His greed conquered all other passions. It made him wait until the performance was finished before he attempted my life.
You know, Holmes, now that the case is solved, I'll tell you something in confidence.
Please do, old fellow. What is
At
it?
the end of the play tonight, I was afraid that you'd made a mistake, that you'd slipped up on the case. Gregson thought so, too.
And I, Watson, will tell you something in confidence.
Oh, what is it?
There were 3 of us that felt the same way.
Now you're being modest, no?
I assure you I'm, my dear chap. In fact, in the future, if it should strike you that I'm, well, getting a little overconfident of my powers, or perhaps giving less pains to a case than it deserves, kindly whisper Sweeney Todd in my ear, will you? I shall be infinitely obliged to you.